Welcome to EarthProLife, your passport to the weirdest, happiest, quirkiest, and most emotional stories from every corner of the earth. We don't just show you the view, we bring you the soul behind it. From heartwarming chaos to silent beauty, from resilience to joy, from the stories that are often missed to the moments that truly matter. This isn't just travel, it's travel that feels. Subscribe now, EarthProLife, feel the world with us. The year had barely turned 2025, and already the world felt too much, too loud, too demanding. I carried a weariness that sleep couldn't quite touch, a yearning for something I couldn't name. Happiness, yes, that was it, but not the fleeting kind, not the kind that came in bright, noisy packages. I craved a deeper, more settled joy, a quiet contentment. My search, like a compass needle seeking north, pointed towards Finland, the world's happiest country, they said. I wasn't sure I believed in such titles, but I was willing to listen to its story. Finland. The name itself sounded like a soft exhale, a land of forests and lakes, of long winters and gentle summers. I read about its people, the resilience, their connection to nature, their quiet strength. It felt like a promise of space, a promise of calm. I booked a flight, not with grand expectations of instant transformation, but with a fragile hope, a hope that I might find a different way to breathe, a different way to exist in a world that often felt overwhelming. My quest had begun, not with a map, but with a feeling. The plane landed in Helsinki. A city, yes, but a city with a gentler pulse than I was used to. From there, my journey took me further, away from the urban hum towards the coast, and then by ferry to a small island, an island nestled in the vast blue embrace of the Baltic Sea. As the mainland receded, so did a layer of my anxiety. The air grew crisper, cleaner. The silence, punctuated only by the cries of gulls and the rhythmic lapping of waves against the hull, was a balm to my frayed nerves. This felt like the edge of the world, or perhaps the beginning. Stepping onto the island was like stepping into a painting. Wooden houses, painted in reds and yellows, dotted the landscape. Smoke curled from chimneys. There were no crowds, no traffic, just the wind whispering through tall pines and a sense of profound stillness. My host, an elderly Finn named Eera, greeted me with a quiet smile and eyes that held a deep, knowing calm. Her cottage was simple, warm, filled with the scent of wood smoke and coffee. There was no television blaring, no constant stream of notifications, just the ticking of an old clock. Life on the island moved to a different rhythm, a slower rhythm, governed by the sun and the seasons. By the needs of the community, people fished. As I settled into the island's gentle rhythm, I began to understand. The Finnish happiness I had read about wasn't a constant beaming smile. It wasn't an endless party. It was something quieter, more resilient. And yes, it was intertwined with a peculiar kind of pessimism. Eera explained it to me one evening as we watched the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and purple. We don't expect life to be easy, she said, her voice soft. So when good things happen, we truly appreciate them. And when bad things happen, we are prepared. This wasn't a depressing outlook, not at all. It was a grounded outlook, an honest outlook. It was about acknowledging the storms of life, knowing they will come, and therefore not being shattered when they do. It was about building a sturdy shelter, not just hoping for eternal sunshine. This pessimism, if you could call it that, acted as a shock absorber. It lowered expectations. It prevented the crushing disappointment that comes from believing life should always be perfect. It created a space for gratitude, for appreciating the small joys. One of the first invitations I received on the island was to the communal sauna. The sauna, I soon learned, is not just a place to get warm. It is a cornerstone of Finnish culture, a sacred space, a place for cleansing, both physical and mental, and a place for a unique kind of connection. I was a little nervous, unsure of the etiquette, but Eera simply smiled and said, "The sauna will welcome you." And it did. The heat was intense, enveloping. The scent of birch leaves filled the air. Inside, there were others from the small community, men and women, young and old. In the dim, steamy light, conversations were sparse, soft. Sometimes there was only silence, a comfortable silence. Not awkward, not forced, just a shared experience of warmth, of release. Occasionally, someone would ladle water onto the hot stones, sending a wave of oily steam through the room. A collective sigh would follow. It was a primal experience. Stripped bare, literally and figuratively, there was a sense of equality, of shared humanity. Between sessions in the heat, we would step outside into the cool, crisp air. Some would even take a dip in the icy sea. Beyond the sauna, another sanctuary called to me, the forest. Finland is a land of forests, vast silent expanses of pine, spruce and birch. The island, though small, had its own precious patch of woodland. Eera encouraged me to explore it. The forest has answers, she would say, if you learn how to listen. So I would walk, often alone, for hours with no particular destination in mind, just the crunch of twigs underfoot, the rustle of leaves in the wind, the occasional call of a bird. The silence of the forest was different from the silence of the sauna. It was a living silence, full of subtle sounds, full of life, yet it was profoundly peaceful. It wrapped around me like a comforting blanket. In the city, silence can feel empty, unnerving. But here, it felt full of presence, the presence of ancient trees, of unseen creatures, of the earth itself. I learned to walk slowly, to pay attention to the patterns of bark, to the way sunlight filtered through the canopy. The word sisu kept coming up in conversations with Eera in the way islanders face challenges. It was more than just resilience, more than perseverance. It was a kind of stubborn courage, a determination to keep going, even when things felt impossible. It wasn't loud or boastful. It was a quiet inner strength, a deep-seated grit. I saw it in the weathered hands of the fishermen, in the patient way people tended their land, in their ability to endure the long, dark winters with a stoic calm. Sisu, I learned, is not about denying difficulty. It's about acknowledging it and then finding the strength to push through. It's about not giving up on yourself or on the task at hand. It's a mindset, a belief in your own capacity to endure and to overcome. It's not about being fearless, it's about acting despite your fears. This resonated deeply with me. I had often felt overwhelmed by challenges, prone to giving up when things got tough. Sisu offered a different model, a model of quiet tenacity. This inner fortitude seemed linked to their honest outlook on life. If you don't expect an easy path, you are better prepared to navigate the obstacles. Living on the island, even for a short time, reconnected me to the earth in a way I hadn't experienced before. Life here was so directly tied to the natural world. The weather dictated the day's activities. The sea provided food. The forest offered fuel and solace. There was a deep respect for the environment, not just as a resource to be exploited, but as a living entity, a partner in life. This connection fostered a profound sense of being grounded, of having roots, even for a visitor like me. This rootedness, this closeness to the earth, seemed to cultivate gratitude, a simple, heartfelt appreciation for what the land and sea provided. There was little waste, things were repaired, reused, cherished. This wasn't about deprivation, it was about mindfulness, about recognizing the value in what you have, and understanding the interconnectedness of all things. When your hands are in the soil, tending a garden, you feel a direct link to the cycle of life. When you feel the wind on your face by the sea, you feel the power and majesty of nature. This contrasted sharply with the often abstracted, disconnected lives many of us lead in urban environments, surrounded by near concrete, removed from the sources of our food and sustenance. On the island, every meal felt like a gift, every sunny day a blessing. My time on the Finnish island eventually came to an end. As the ferry carried me back towards the mainland, I watched the small wooded outcrop recede into the mist. I felt a pang of sadness, but also a deep sense of fullness. I hadn't found a magical formula for happiness. There are no such things, but I had found something far more valuable, a new perspective, a different way of being, a quiet strength I didn't know I possessed. Finland and its island had given me a precious gift. The biggest lesson was the surprising role of that grounded, honest outlook, that so-called pessimism. It wasn't about negativity, it was about reality, about accepting life with all its imperfections, and in that acceptance finding a strange kind of peace, a resilience. It taught me that true contentment isn't about avoiding sadness or difficulty, it's about navigating it with grace and appreciating the good moments all the more deeply because of it. It's about building a life sturdy enough to withstand the storms, not just waiting for endless sunshine. I carried home with me the memory of the sauna's warmth, the forest silence, the taste of Eera's coffee, the feeling of sisu stirring within me. These weren't just souvenirs, they were tools to help me build a more balanced, more grateful life.